Hi everyone, it's Gary Nicholson here. This is your latest mountain planning video updated on Tuesday the 26th of June. Now plenty more hot weather on the way in the short term. The ground very dry once again, so be aware of that high fire risk over the next few days. Subtle changes in the weather pattern towards the weekend, an increasing easterly wind at first, and then eventually the risk of something thundery getting into the mix, which just gives us that more mixed outlook as we go into next week. Now the charts for the next few days keep high pressure very much in charge, centred towards the east on Wednesday, the airflow then drawing in as a south-southeasterly, the very highest temperatures then extending northwards into the highlands. Some of the glens could well top 30 degrees on Wednesday afternoon. A very hot day then for most places, not too much wind around, and the mountains once again extensively free of cloud. Slightly more of an easterly flow across England and Wales on Thursday. Wind still relatively light, maybe 15-20 miles per hour on the higher tops of the Peak District and across Wales. Little wind for the Highlands. Again, a very warm day in prospect and clear skies for many. Just subtle changes into Friday. We've got a very weak front coming in from the northeast. The high is centred towards the north by this stage. What it might just do is bring a bit more in the way of cloud to some eastern districts, perhaps some banks of low cloud getting into the eastern Cairngorms for a time. It's still a dry picture though. The warmest temperatures very much towards the western side of the Highlands, across the Lake District and Wales too, but that easterly wind will just be strengthening across England and Wales. That'll be a theme going into the weekend, with Saturday seeing low pressure towards the south, the high just being squeezed away a bit further north at this time. We've got the best of the warmest, sunniest conditions again towards western regions, extensively still a fair day for most. We've just got that stronger wind though, and I think across the Pennines, the Lakes and Wales, quite a blustery easterly will be in place throughout Saturday. Temperature still warm across the western mountains, a little bit cooler in eastern districts with that drift coming in from the North Sea. That theme continues into Sunday, but low pressure starts to push fronts up from the south. Very tricky with those details at this distance, but something a bit more unsettled trying to get into Wales and perhaps the South Pennines through Sunday. Scotland most likely stays dry, but a bit more in the way of cloud cover, increasingly pushing northwards. I think again the best of all the conditions should be across the west and northwest Highlands. Still warm, but not quite as warm as we're seeing just at the moment. Now, I've talked about this low to the south in recent videos and how it might bring that risk of something thundery. Well, that's where we are over the weekend, as we've just seen. The high has been squeezed apart, really. One is away towards Scandinavia, another is away towards the Azores. As we drift on into the start of next week, that low doesn't really do a great deal. It fills and it weakens, but it just leaves something of a trough in the upper layers of the atmosphere, just that risk of some more instability in the atmosphere going into next week. Pressure, I think, is still fairly high or fairly slack, so not too much moving around. We're not under the dominant high, though, that we've seen through this week, so expect that risk of something thundery breaking out at times into next week. Temperatures still fairly warm, and may well be plenty of dry weather around, but I just think that risk of catching showers or torrential downpours for some is going to be in the picture next week. Eventually, with time, low pressure over the Atlantic looks as though it wants to come back in, introducing something fresher and more mobile and more changeable from the west. How quickly that gets in is uncertain. It might take most of the week for that transition to take place, but I think if that does get in, as we head a little bit deeper into July, then we might find a more changeable regime is more common. So while some of the talk is starting to get towards 1976 at the moment in terms of the very dry, warm weather, I'm not convinced that the summer as a whole is heading that way. I think there's scope for a breakdown, and it's one of those patterns where if we do break, we struggle to find drier weather for a spell further down the line. We're not quite there yet, though. I think the story for next week is more scattered thunderstorms rather than anything too badly broken. So we'll see how things pan out. We'll update this video for you again on Friday. Thanks for watching today, and bye for now.